Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here, got another Master Duel video for you. Not to toot my own horn or anything, but toot, I think I just cooked a really cool deck. So, coming at you with Ice Barrier Spright. Now you might be thinking, well that's not necessarily a new deck, right? I've heard of Ice Barrier Spright before, and that's true. Ice Barrier Spright was a variant of the deck that did see at least some degree of popularity, I believe in the TCG. However, I was told by some people, because I didn't really know anything about Ice Barrier Spright, right? Going into Ice Barrier stuff coming out. I didn't even do any research until I already crafted the Ice Barrier cards, which, you know, I really want to play the deck pure anyway. Will probably still happen on the channel very relatively soon, I have to imagine. But anyway. But then I learned that, like, oh, that build focused into going into Totally Awesome, which is banned in Master Duel. So surely Ice Barrier Spright isn't a thing in Master Duel, right? Well, no, because of course it's me, and of course I'm going to jam Spright to every single deck that has any amount of level 2 monsters, even just the one. But really, this build end up working extremely well. So the idea here is there's actually a couple of different ideas going on. Sometimes we do go into not only Spright plays, but also making some water synchros along the way. However, there is a decent amount of the time where you can actually just use the Ice Barrier stuff to go into like a Spright board, right? So let's say that you open Hexa, Spirit of the Ice Barrier, and 4 hand traps, or just, well, not foolish, that's an extender, but 4 hand traps slash non-engine, right? Well, Hexa can dump the Mirror Mage, and Mirror Mage doesn't care how it's sent to the graveyard. You can just add an Ice Barrier card, right? Not only that, but Hexa will also copy the level of whatever it dumps. So even though the Mirror Mage is, like, technically the only level 2 Ice Barrier monster, the Hexa is also going to end up being level 2 because it'll dump the Mirror Mage. So once you've dumped Mirror Mage, you can add the Garogius. I'm sure I'm butchering that card's name, but I really don't know how to say that name. Anyway, you can grab the level 6 guy, special, bring back the Mirror Mage, and now you've got 2 level 2s and an extra body to start making your Spright plays. You could go into like Elf and or Sprint, and then Gigantic at some point. But of course you do have to be mindful of your locks, right? Gigantic is going to 2-lock us. However, if we do activate the Mirror Mage effect, this will lock us out of specialing from the extra deck for the rest of the turn, except for the water synchro monsters, right? But honestly, these 2 locks, although they seem like they conflict pretty hard, really aren't that big of a deal, because there are actually lines in this deck where you can make the Elf plus IP without even going into Gigantic, and then you can still do Mirror Mage later in the turn for Dragite or Crocket Dragon. It's usually going to be Dragite. I haven't actually had a game where I've summoned Crocket Dragon yet, but it's not hard. You just go Coral Dragon plus, you know, one of your level 2s plus one of your level 1 Ice Barrier tokens, and then that'll get you 3 draws, 1 off the Coral Dragon, 2 off the Crocket Dragon, and then you can even put that under Elf to give it some target protection. By the way, we are playing a little bit of a nimble package, and I mean the bare minimum here. We're using Beaver, Angler, and then of course also a Sunfish as well. Sunfish instead of Nimble Musari because of course it's water, and I don't think that actually really matters for much of anything, but it could potentially matter for Dragite, you know. I guess that'd really be the main the main reason there is that it could potentially matter for that. But yeah, just a little bit of a nimble package, not only to assist with synchroing, as I kind of touched on before, but mainly to have something dump off of Sprint. But Angler isn't the only thing to dump off of Sprint. You can also dump the Mirror Mage off of Sprint as well. And like I said, we not only have the Garogius, but we also have Freezing Chains, right? So even in the middle of your Spright plays, you could, in theory, make a Sprint, dump Mirror Mage, add the Chains bring back the Mirror Mage sack off the Sprint, and then go into a Dragite or Crocket Dragon. Either way, it is really nice to be able to add the Spell Trap Negate to your end board. The other cool thing is that if you do open, like, you know, Ice Barrier stuff and then also a blue, right, you can Jet for starter, and the Mirror Mage will lock you out of summoning anything but water synchros, but only from the extra deck. So at the end of your combo line, you can just start her and be like, yeah, by the way, I'm going to add another negate to my end board. It's very cool. Deep Sea Diva also very, very important for these plays. In fact, I think before we even look at any replays, I'm going to show you the 1-card combo that you can do with Deep Sea Diva that will end you on Elf plus IP plus Dragite, and you also draw a card. So Diva by itself will end you on Elf, IP, Dragite, and then you still have 5 cards in hand, which is kind of insane, actually. Another great thing about this deck is that you get to play, of course, Medallion of the Ice Barrier, which is one of the best, like, spell searcher cards for an archetype in the game, because it's just a straight-up normal spell, and it's not once per turn at all, which is, of course, very, very nice. Yeah, I think this is a really, really fun variant. It's like immediately taking me back to, I don't know, just every time I play a new Spright variant, I'm reminded of why why I love playing the deck so much. Also, feel free to work with ratios that you see here. For example, if you want more hand traps, you could take out like Triple Tactics Talents, and also, honestly, you could take out like even Foolish Burial. Obviously, this is very good for dumping either Angler or Mirror Mage, but it's not like 100% needed. And of course, you know, ratios of hand traps and all that fun stuff. I would probably keep 3 Hexa, just because it is really good to open, but you actually don't even really need 3 Medallion a lot of the time. But even if you don't need the Medallion to do plays, it is nice to be able to grab, like, potentially the Gregorius as an extender, and then use Mirror Mage to grab the chains instead of the Gregorius, and then you're good to go. But, yeah, I normally do the deck breakdown here, but I think I'm actually just going to move straight into showing you that 1-card combo line. Let's take a look at that there. Alright, perfect. We got a hand here. We've got Deep Sea Diva and a bunch of hand traps and another normal summon. So this is actually a pretty ideal hand to show just how Deep Sea Diva can be our full turn 1 combo all by itself. So we're going to lead by normal summoning the Diva here and activating her effect to special summon a level 3 or lower Sea Serpent from our deck, which is going to be Hexa, Spirit of the Ice Barrier. Diva, another older card, very broken because it doesn't actually negate the thing it summons from deck, meaning we can use Hexa's effect to go ahead and send off the Mirror Mage, and that'll bump this up to level 2. From there we can Mirror Mage effect to add the level 6 Gregorius, or Gerogius. I always want to throw in that extra R at the beginning, but we can grab this guy, special him, and then once we do that, we can, of course, special the Mirror Mage that is in our graveyard. Now, honestly, I feel like there's a lot of different things that you could potentially cook by having just this number of materials on the board here, especially if you had like a Spright monster in hand. You could have, and having just a non-tuner in general, because that is kind of the thing about this, is that you end up on 4 tuners, right? So as far as making actual synchro plays, right now it's a little bit awkward, but let me go ahead and continue on with the combo line here. So we're going to want to make Elf first. It doesn't really matter what you make it with. We'll just use like Diva and Hexa here. But you want to make Elf first. That is important. Now, after Elf, we're going to want to make Sprint with our 2 remaining monsters. Elf first because we want to end the EMZ to give our target protection, naturally. So now that we have summoned a Sprint, we're going to go ahead and use the Sprint effect and dump our Nimble Angler into the graveyard. From there, we can use the Nimble Angler effect. We're going to summon our Beaver and Sunfish. And we're going to just pivot into the IP directly with those 2. Throw that right over there. Now, we still have not actually used Spright Elf's effect yet, so let's go ahead and do that. We're going to bring back the Mirror Mage of the Ice Barrier. Put him right over here. And Mirror Mage F, we're going to tribute our Spright Sprint in order to make all 3 of our tokens. This will make our Mirror Mage level 5 as well. From here, we're going to sync for 6. The Mirror Mage and one of our level 1 tokens are going to go into the Coral Dragon. And then from there, we're going to make Dragite using Coral Dragon and our remaining level 1 tokens. Now, after that resolves, Coral Dragon's effects will activate, giving us that extra card draw. And there you go. We even got another Diva just to end on the exact same hand. To really reflect that, yeah, not only is this a 1-card combo, but you lose no hand advantage doing this. You still end on 5 cards there. And not only that, but of course we have the Elf pointing to both the Dragite and the IOP Masquerena, all off of just one card. So yeah, that's kind of the backbone behind the deck. And as you can see, this combo line didn't even use any Spright monsters. So if you really, really wanted to, you could just play Ice Barrier Pure with a Nimble engine and still end on a board similar to this off of one card. But yeah, of course, also, had we, again, opened Spright Blue, especially when we had all 4 of those bodies on the board, just having a non-tuner in there opens up so many different things that you can do. But now that you have an idea of how this deck likes to combo, we're going to go ahead and see some replays where we're playing against actual decks here, not solo mode. Alright, our first opponent's going to be on some kind of a stun/burn hybrid thing going on there. Lots of floodgates, but then there's also some, like, Cauldron of the Old Man's and the Firewall Prison thing and that kind of a thing, too. So, here we did open the Angler, which is kind of unlucky when you open one of your Nimble cards, because it kind of means you can't do that engine. That is the thing I kind of don't like about the Nimble package in general. While it is really, really good with Sprint, if you don't play, you know, many Nimble cards, then if you open one, you don't get to use them at all, but if you play too many, then you start drawing them too much. So, anyway, though, we're just going to use Hexa to combo here. As I touched on before, Hexa is pretty much a one-card combo line by itself. Normally, I think I would pivot into more Spright plays, like Overlay for Gigantic there. But because I have Starter in my hand, what I can do here is Mirror Mage to sack the Hexa, go into our Coral Dragon, and then make the Dragite. And now, as I touched on before in the deck profile, we're only locked for water monsters in the extra deck, so we can actually still use Spright Starter here. So I'm going to activate Starter, and then get blue, and then use blue F for the red. Just going for blue first, just to get an extra body, because there's kind of no reason not to. Set Infirm. And I mean, there you go. So, like, even off of Hexa plus Starter, like, that's still pretty solid. We end up with a couple of negates. We have the Elf, we got an extra body on the board, as well as the other 4 cards in hand, so I don't know, I think this deck has a pretty solid basis behind it. So anyway, opponents glued to the Barrier Statue and then go into the Pot of Duality added by Geki. So now I know what I have to Dragite negate this turn. Everything else is pretty much just going to be bait, including this Grand Sea, what's this card called? Decisive Battle of Golgan. Oh my god. Golgonda, that's what it's called. It was just so small on the screen there, I couldn't read it. Alright, so set 3. Flipping up macro. Not going to negate that. That's pretty obvious Dragite bait. I am going to imperm the Barrier Statue. They're going to chain Solemn Judgment. That's actually completely fine, because by having their life points, they've kind of reduced the need for me to even need to special summon pre-battle phase anyway. And now I can just save the Dragite for the last face down card. I actually activated Dragite's on board effect here just to see if I excavated the one of Rock Monster, the one Nibiru in the entire deck. But it ends up baiting out the Dogmatica Punishment, which even though it's targeting the Elf, I'm still just going to go ahead and use the Dragite effect. So that way they don't send Entis. Although I guess Entis will get banished because of macro, right? I think either way, I just would want to negate here anyway. It's like, I don't really care about the Great Sand Sea, because that's a once per turn effect, I believe? Yeah. And yeah, they're just gonna surrender here anyway, but like, Great Sand Sea is only once per turn. Like, I don't know, it's funny, you know, I'm not a Floodgate fan, but sometimes I feel like people get really loose with how they define Floodgates. I have seen people refer to Decisive Battle of Golgonda as a Floodgate. I think that's giving this card far too much credit. Like, honestly, it's not a bad card, but to say, like, a card that stops just a destruction once per turn is a Floodgate, I think that's being, I don't know, I think it's being over-exaggerated. Again, I'm not, like, defending stun or anything, which is kind of sad that I feel the need to specify that whenever I make a point like this, but anyway. Yeah, no, I don't know. It seems like a bit of a stretch to call that a Floodgate, but we can still play through it regardless, even if we didn't excavate the Nibiru off the Dragite there. Would not have been too much trouble to battle over it and then swing in for lethal still. So, yeah, just another example of what turn 1 looks like. But as you can see, I wanted to start with the Diva combo because we didn't have a chance to really do it in this game, or I think any of the others we're going to see here. But anyway, let's just go ahead and move on to the next one. Okay, so this person's playing Infin Noble Makonko, but not in the way that you're probably used to it. I think this build looks more like an Infin Noble deck that's kind of using Sublimination Knight and a few Makonko cards, like some Ha-Rays and a couple equip spells to set up the combo line. But anyway, so I'm going to lead by normal summoning Nibble Sunfish. And okay, things are going kind of fast right now. I want to talk about this hand / playing a little bit. So normal summon Sunfish, opponent's going to throw out Max C. It's obviously not ideal. However, we do have the triple attack here. And this game is honestly going to highlight, like, why I love triple attack as a card so much. When it comes to playing board breaker cards, I will always play this over Evenly because I love the utility that it gives you on turn 1, even if it doesn't do, like, you know, quite the same board breaking ability that Evenly does, right? Evenly can banish a whole board. This only seals one monster, but I think that being able to pick a mode, and particularly the power of the other modes, is what makes triple attack worth running. And also its versatility, the fact that you can actually use this if you go first. So here, under the Max C, I am going to throw out Red and Carrot and give them 2 draws, just because it gives me one of each monster and spell trap negate. Then I'm going to follow with triple attack for the hand rip. This will effectively let me establish multiple negates while not giving my opponent any net hand advantage, and also giving me info. Alright, so I look at their hand here. I see Valor, Ash Blossom, and Nib, so it's like, wow, they have 3 more hand traps anyway. They have Sublimation Knight, the Great Makonko Ceremony, and Noble Arms Museum. So I see this hand, and I immediately am looking for starters, right? When I'm looking to rip with triple attack, and Sublimation Knight is the only starter here. They do have the Noble Arms Museum for potentially adding Durandal, but I can also just carrot that. Great Makonko Ceremony doesn't do anything here by itself, and then they have, yeah, Nib, and just a bunch of hand traps. We'll have to be mindful of these hand traps and play through / around them in the future, but for now, just focusing on stopping their plays. So I'm going to take their Sublimation Knight here, and then just pass right back over to them, so. Okay, opponents draw, standby, main. They're leading with the Imperm. Now, we know they top deck this, because we know the rest of their hand, and with Imperm targeting the Spright Red, I'm immediately like, okay, this is like the most obvious bait I've ever seen in the world. And we know this because, again, we know the rest of our opponent's hand. They don't have any monsters that are worth negating, but they do have Noble Arms Museum, which you're going to need to resolve to get their plays going. So I'm going to go ahead and negate the effect of that by triggering off the Sunfish with the Carrot. So, again, not negating that Imperm because we know all their monsters. They're all hand traps, right? So. Alright, end of phase. Passing back over to us, drawing an Imperm of our own. So, alright, again, kind of talk, because the replay is going by a little bit faster. So as I went to this turn, I was kind of thinking, like, okay, they have all these hand traps. Like, I want a Gigantic to play around Nib, but they have Valor and Ash Blossom, so I need to play through those first. With, of course, Great Makonko Ceremony being their 4th card. So what I decided to do here was actually link these 2 off into Spright Elf. Now we'll go Elf F to try to bring back Red. They're obviously going to Valor, so now we've played through that. We can use Foolish to potentially set up another extender here, but then, of course, they're going to Ash Blossom that. However, now they're out of, hand traps, right? Only 1 summon, so we're obviously not playing it in Nib, and Nib I can play around with Gigantic later. But more than that, I have the Imperm in hand. If I didn't draw Imperm, I probably wouldn't have done this turn, you know, played it in this way. Granted, if I hadn't drawn Imperm and it was an extender, I could just combo out anyway. But with Imperm, I can set this and then use Elf to bring back Carrot on their turn and still have both negates up. The drawback is this, so they get to Noble Arms Museum before I have a chance to Elf bring back Carrot, right? Because of turn player priority, so. I'm actually not going to negate the Durandal, though. Because, yeah, I was like, they're probably just going to add a Sublimination Knight, and then I can just Imperm that, right? So, I decided that was going to be my game plan instead here. Now, granted, they could just battle over the Spright Elf, but here my opponent threw out the Cross-Out Designator that they top deck. So I'm like, okay, I'll just negate that with the Carrot, that's fine. Now, even with the boost, Sublimination Knight cannot battle over the Spright Carrot. Again, we know the 2 cards in their hand are Nib and Great Makonko Ceremony, so they can't make any more plays here. They have to go to end phase. And now I can top deck literally any monster and win. And it actually is the best possible monster I could have top decked. Hexa, Spirit of the Ice Barrier. But again, it literally could have been any single monster. As long as I can normal summon it, it would have gotten me to gain pretty much here. Because let's say it had been, I don't play it, but let's say it had been Effect Valor, right? Normal summon Effect Valor, link it off with Carrot. Normal summon Valor 1 summon, link it with Carrot into Elf, so 2 summons. Elf, bring back a 2, that's 3 summons. Go into Gigantic is 4 summons. Gigantic F to summon a monster is the 5th summon, but after Gigantic F, they can't summon Nib because they're 2 locked, so. And then, yeah, that's why I paused right there, is because they conceded shortly afterward, but it was kind of funny that not only, again, did I top deck a monster, but I think Hexa, aside from maybe Deep Sea Diva, was like quite literally the best possible monster I could have top decked. Although, in that regard, if you think about it, between Hexa, right, between Deep Sea Diva, and between Medallion, that's 9 cards we still had in our deck to top deck. That's the thing about this variant, too, is like, not only are these combos kind of wild, but this deck is like crazy consistent because of Medallion and Diva and Hexa. And if you really wanted to play even more starters for Ice Barrier stuff, you could even play 1-for-1 for Hexa as well. But we also have Foolish Burial as well to get play started. I mean, in general, we obviously already used it in this game. So just so many different opportunities. This deck is so cool. Anyway, got one more game to share with you. Let's finish off with that one. Okay, I had to throw in at least one going second game here, and this one's going to be against Cash Tira. And we are going to get shifted, so we'll see how we do with that. Now, we did open with Nibiru, which is probably just the best possible hand trap you could have against Cash Tira. As recently discussed in my hand trap guide, please make sure to go click on that. I spent many, many days editing it, so I'd be greatly appreciated if you went and checked it out. So yep, there's the shifter. They even have the normal summon Ash Blossom to go for the Barrel and the Fleur here. However, because we opened the Imperm alongside the Nib, that actually just doesn't matter at all. So basically what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to let my opponent go full combo, and then end of main, I'm going to Nib, and then when they Barrel, I'm just going to Imperm it. I want to do it this way, so that way I'm eating as many of my opponent's resources as possible. Again, as previously discussed in the hand trap guide earlier this week, I think that oftentimes the best time to use hand traps is at a time when it makes your opponent use a lot of their resources, not only for from their first turn, but also from for follow-up turns. So, all right, here's the Fenrir. Then I get to go into the Rise Heart. Which normally this would be very, very scary, but yeah, because we have Nib plus Imperm, it just actually doesn't matter at all. There's the Baron, and we have the Imperm. And of course, a lot of the time you wouldn't even need Imperm. This person just happened to have the Ash Blossom. They can normal summon and still go into full combo. It's not even just Ash Blossom, they also had to have the Theosis in hand as well to be able to search Birth. Now we are going to put a pretty big token on their board, but it's really not that big of a deal. Alright, the main thing to remember here is that we are under Shifter. So, like, normally, if I wasn't under Shifter, I would just normal summon Hexa. Hexa, dump Mirror Mage. Mirror Mage, add the level 6, special level 6, bring back Mirror Mage, have Jet, and then just be, you know, good to go. But again, because we're under Shifter, we have to do things a little bit differently. I'm going to normal summon the Mirror Mage, go for Jet, Jet for starter. Now I'm going to use the Mirror Mage F to tribute the Jet, and summon my 3 tokens. Going into the Coral Dragon. No search off the Mirror Mage because he got banished. Thankfully, Coral Dragon just discards. It doesn't have to send the card from the hand to the graveyard. So, after getting rid of the Nib token, I'm going to sink for the Dragite. No water monsters in my graveyard, but this starter that I grabbed off of the Jet is actually going to super matter here for blue in attack mode, and then Spright Blue F to add a Spright Red. Special summon the Spright Red also in attack mode, and now we have over 8,000 damage. So, even playing through Shifter, we were still able to fairly easily find 8k damage. Granted, we did also have the Nib in play as well, but like, even if we didn't have access to the Nib here, like if that wasn't on board, I mean, how else would we have really cleared a Kesher on board that easily? But you know, we still had our opponent in a position where we deal a lot of damage, then we have negates for their turn, and are more than likely good to go there, as well as the Maxi. So there we go. That'll do it for this one. Like I said, pure Ice Barrier video is probably still going to happen at some point. I mean, almost assuredly still going to happen. I have the cards. There's no reason I wouldn't play it. But there's also no way I could not cook with Spright first, right? And I'm quite satisfied with this. Like, even from the standpoint of just using Hexa and Diva and Medallion to go into one-card Spright plays, like, That's already 9 cards right there. That's kind of insane, actually. That's really insane. That's even more consistent than the Yubel or the Dark Beckoning Beast Nightmare Throne package as far as like just having 1 card starters into Spright plays. So I have high hopes for Ice Barrier Spright, and I'm definitely going to keep cooking with it. And of course, I will let you know if there are any significant combo updates or deck updates and that kind of a thing. So anyway, thanks for watching me cook. It's fun as always. Let's just go ahead and move now to our outro. Hey everybody, Hexlex here. Just want to give you a huge thanks for watching all the way to the very end of the video. Believe it or not, that is actually one of the best ways that you can support the channel, is by watching the videos in their entirety. But there are many ways in which you can support the channel if you are so interested. The names that you're seeing on screen here, I gotta give an extra special thanks to, because these are people who have chosen to either become a member on YouTube, which if you're interested you can do as well via the join button next to the subscribe button down there, or have signed up over on Patreon and become members there. Link to that is going to be in the description below. Without the support that is being offered by, again, all the people that you're seeing on screen right here, I would not be able to take the time to dedicate to uploading daily YouTube videos. So thank you so very much. But there are also other ways you can support as well. Again, link to the description below. If you like my deck tracker that you'll see in a lot of my videos, the Untapped Companion, you can download that for free, and if you use my affiliate link down there, then that also goes a long way towards supporting the channel. That's, again, free. So is subscribing here on YouTube. That's also free and a huge way to support. You can also check out Twitch, once again linked in the description below. Following and subscribing over there will not only support as well, but also give you notifications of when I go live if you want to catch some of the live streams. But really, no matter how you choose to support, it all adds up, and it all definitely means the world. So thank you, each and every one of you. For now, this is Hexlex. I'm going to be signing out. But more than that, I'm hoping that you have a fantastic day.